So here we are again, and I'm afraid I have to apologize for getting this video up a little late. In all honesty though, there hasn't been a whole lot of major news in the past week, so my motivation wasn't too high. Add to this the fact that I still haven't gotten around to making any bonus videos, largely because I've been spending a large amount of time sitting around watching TV, and it creates a recipe for the majority of people to not care at all about anything I say. Whether this is actually different from normal is a whole other issue in itself. I'm being completely serious when I say that there really isn't a whole lot new about the news these days. There's still more problems with the floods in Pakistan, with the current concern of the day being that the children will be exposed to waterborne diseases. Some volcano in western Indonesia erupted for the first time in about 400 years, which is interesting until you realize that it's basically like every other volcano eruption you've ever heard of, except it happened in Indonesia and hasn't happened for several hundred years beforehand. Exciting stuff right here. Moving on, New Orleans is in the news yet again, this time for a so-called rebirth on the 5th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina hitting the city. That's right, after all that fundraising and all of that time spent subliminally hating anybody you know named Katrina, the city is, well, actually it's still being rebuilt. The rebirth that's described is apparently more of a psychological thing, with President Obama pledging to help with the reconstruction, and, I quote, until the job is done. On the flip side, CNN journalist Samantha Hayes, while reporting from one of the harder-hit areas of New Orleans, was quoted as saying that it's almost like a moment in time where nothing has changed. It looks like it did not long after the storm. This doesn't exactly inspire confidence in me. Speaking of storms, Hurricane Earl has just hit the Caribbean and is on its way to North America. It's apparently going to make a landfall in the Maritimes, which is relatively far away from me, but it's still pretty freaky considering it's already a Category 4. Anyway, most of the other world news I've seen this week has been in some way related to a group of 33 Chilean miners who have been trapped about half a mile underground and will probably stay there for months. While small holes have been drilled to allow for basic communication with the miners as well as facilitating the delivery of food and other supplies, the excavation of the rescue tunnel was just started a few days ago and isn't expected to be finished before December. Moreover, a recent development has revealed that while they're trying to deal with being trapped in a confined space with dozens of other people, they'll also have to work to clear out rubble dislodged by the drilling of the rescue hole, totaling up to between 3,000 and 4,000 tons of rock by the time the tunnel is finished. They've also made a video with greetings to their families and some other personal stuff that can pretty much be found on any major news site, but a link to it will be down below anyway. Thankfully, unless complications occur, the miners have access to food, water, and medicine while the rescue tunnel is being dug, so the only thing they really have to worry about is their own sanity. Getting on to a more cheerful topic, I once again have to introduce another team member to the videos. This time you may know him by his username Pineapple Pie, or less likely by his real name Zach. Anyway, he may also be showing up in the videos from time to time, hopefully enjoying a better fate than his coworker Soul Extractor, but that's another story. Your way of recognizing him will be, I don't know, that he's always carrying a pie. His post will be on the blog, so make sure you check out what he has to say. Just as a warning, there may be even more people joining the blog in the near future, so you're definitely going to want to go over there and see what everyone's doing. We all have our different styles and subjects, so you'll definitely find something you like. Now, I'm sure many of you have noticed that, although I claim to talk about a lot of things in the intro, I so far seem to be talking only about world news. Well, it's your lucky day. I'm giving out my opinions on a whole lot of topics right now. First off, let's cover movies. I think we can all agree that, with the exception of a few movies, Hollywood hasn't been doing so well lately. I'm hoping this will change in the near future, but short of the new Harry Potter movie coming out in mid-November, I really haven't heard of anything that looks like it'll be a big draw. As far as music goes, I was impressed when I obtained Somewhere in the Between by Streetlight Manifesto a while back, and I've got a few CDs I want to buy in the future, but most recently I was impressed after downloading an album by Bomb the Music Industry. I was particularly impressed by a song called The First Time I Met Sanawon, which, though not the most sophisticated piece of music I've seen, is pretty good for being on an album that was completed from writing to recording in 5 days. This brings me to another point on the subject of music. There's a nice site out there called quote-unquote records, where you can download albums from a bunch of indie bands for completely free. While the offering there seems to be mostly punk and ska bands, if either of those are your thing, I definitely recommend checking it out. My recommendations from the site would probably be, well, Bomb the Music Industry, of course, along with an Irish punk band by the name of Chewing on Tinfoil, and a band that fits both the titles of punk and ska, the Arrogant Sons of Bitches. If you like the music, you can make donations to the site, but even if you don't, it's a great way to find some good music without having to shell out a lot of money. Now onto the next item on my agenda, video games. Other than the titles I mentioned back in episode 2, I'm not too enthusiastic about any video games that are currently available, and the only future title that I can really say I'm looking forward to would be Portal 2, which will be loved by anyone who enjoyed the first Portal and also adds the possibility of co-op play. The company behind the game, Valve, is thankfully bringing it to the PS3, along with a full Steamworks client for developers, which means it may soon be possible to blast zombies' faces in on a console that doesn't suffer from the red ring of death. Yes, as you can probably tell, I'm a PS3 guy, not an Xbox guy, but unlike the majority of people, I'm not going to try and shove my preferences down your throat so hard that your grandchildren will feel it. I've been through the debates, I've tried both systems, and I've realized that they each have different advantages, selling points, and strengths. The PS3 fits what I want from a console better than the Xbox 360, and I can understand that this isn't necessarily the same for others, so don't get pissed off and start calling me God knows what because of my video game preferences. Are we all okay with that? Are those who aren't okay with it at least too lazy to do anything about it? That's good. Okay, I think that about wraps things up. I think the length of this video justifies it being late, and here's hoping you all agree with me. I'll have those bonus videos up as soon as possible, so be sure to keep checking the blog. While you're there, you can read the post by Soul Extractor or Pineapple Pie, and keep a lookout for new members on the team. Well, thanks for watching, and keep going nowhere.